History is littered with civilizations that have disappeared or been scattered. There are various reasons why this happens. Sometimes it's the fault of war, while other times they destroy themselves from within. However, there are instances where this destruction occurs from the one thing nobody can control: Mother Nature. In this age, we are lucky that we have the technology and science to be able to predict the coming calamity, thereby protecting ourselves. Unfortunately, this hasn't always been the case. From the Great Japan Earthquake to ancient mythical cities, here are 5 civilizations throughout history that have been wiped out by nature. On the morning of April 18, 1906, San Francisco was rocked by a massive earthquake, one that nearly tore the city apart. Even though the quake lasted for less than a minute, the damage that was caused was immediate. Buildings were destroyed, and fires broke out all over the place that burned for 3 days straight. Despite a quick response from a large portion of the city's population, many of whom were military, the city was devastated and over 500 city blocks were completely destroyed. Survivors of the quake retreated to various city parks and open areas, sleeping in tents for months at a time. They would stand in lines for food. It even got so bad that orders were given that food could only be cooked in the middle of the streets, thereby reducing the risk for any additional fires to start. In total, over 3,000 people lost their lives, and over half of the city's 400,000 residents were rendered homeless. Aid poured in from all over the country and the world, but those who survived were left with bigger hardships than they had ever faced before. After everything was said and done, tens of thousands of residents, rather than undertake the costly task of rebuilding, decided to pick up and leave. The San Francisco earthquake is still considered to be one of the worst natural disasters in U.S. history. There have always been tales of cities that were once bustling centers of commerce or technology, yet somehow just disappeared. In the Arab country of Oman, there was once a city called Ubar, which was the center of the lucrative frankincense trade, around 3,000 years before the birth of Christ. It was built nearly 5,000 years ago. However, it simply vanished from the face of the earth. According to Islamic legend, Ubar's rulers became wealthy and powerful. Its residents turned to evil, eventually angering God, who would go on to destroy the city, allowing it to be swallowed up by the restless desert. T.E. Lawrence, better known as Lawrence of Arabia, called it the Atlantis of the Sands. So, did this fabled place ever exist? The answer is yes, it did. A team of archaeologists based out of Los Angeles have found the lost city buried under the shifting sands of Oman. Using a combination of high-tech satellite imagery and a little old-fashioned literary detective work, they were able to uncover the fortress city. Not only this, but researchers say they have documented how the city fell, and that it did not appear to be any sort of divine judgment. In reality, the city was unknowingly built on top of a huge limestone cavern. Over time, the weight of the city caused the cavern to collapse into a massive sinkhole, destroying much of the city and causing the rest to be abandoned. It is much less dramatic, but equally as astonishing. Just on the other side of the Pacific Ocean, in the country of Japan, earthquakes are known to happen on a very frequent basis. Just 17 years after the San Francisco earthquake, Japan suffered one of the worst earthquakes in history. It is known as the Great Kanto earthquake. Just around midday on September 1st, 1923, a 7.9 magnitude earthquake struck the Tokyo-Yokohama metropolitan area, immediately bringing down buildings and crushing anything and anyone inside. To make matters worse, the earthquake generated a huge tsunami that reached a height of 39.5 feet, which is around 12 meters. The tsunami itself was enough to destroy around 155 houses and kill about 60 people. However, the majority of the damage was done to the cities of Tokyo and Yokohama. There, more than half of the city's brick buildings and 1/10 of the reinforced concrete structures collapsed. Many hundreds of thousands of houses were either shaken or burned down by the ensuing fires. It is estimated to have taken the lives of more than 140,000 people. Today, the people of Japan, although prepared, still live in fear of earthquakes as they are in one of the most prone spots in the entire world. Resting on the edge of 3 tectonic plates, the country will definitely see more of them in the future. In the span of world history, one of the most powerful and dominant civilizations were the Greeks. Their power and influence spanned throughout the known world. But before the rise of Alexandria, one of the biggest and most important cities in the empire was the port city of Thonis Heraklion. Located at the mouth of the Nile River, it was considered to be the gateway to Egypt for foreign traders. However, what they didn't know was that the very ground on which the city was built would be the cause of its destruction. Being at the mouth of the Nile, the region was prone to flooding, whether it be rainfall in the region or somewhere upriver. Sometime around the 2nd century BC, a particularly bad flood season saturated the ground beneath the city so much that the soil and clay basically turned into liquid. Unable to support the weight of the society above, everything completely sank. Houses, temples, streets, statues, trading posts, all were swallowed by the surrounding water. But, unlike the mythical city of Atlantis, Thonis Heraklion can still be explored under the water. Recent underwater expeditions have uncovered some incredible things, such as a huge temple that was dedicated to Hercules or Heracles and Osiris. Hundreds of artifacts, such as ceramic pots, coins, and tools, have been found nearly completely intact, looking as if time stood still. It is unknown how many people perished from such an event, but judging by how big the city was and how enormous the structures were, the number could very well be over 50,000. One civilization that few people have heard of existed in 100 to 700 AD along northern Peru's coast and was known as the Moche civilization. Although today it is widely debated among historians if this was a politically organized group of people or if it was simply a large tribe spread out over a large area. Regardless, there is no denying their existence and impact on the region. It seems that there have been no major influences on today's society as opposed to others like the Aztecs or the Mayans. But there is also another reason as to why we don't hear very much about this lost people. They were wiped out or driven from the area before any real structure could be established in their civilization. Many theories exist as to what the cause could have been, but the most widely accepted one is that the region experienced a large season of rainy weather, far more than they were used to, followed almost immediately by a long period of drought. This dramatic shift of extreme weather decimated the region. From what little is known about the Moche civilization, we do know that they were a society that was based around agriculture, with a significant level of investment in the construction of a network of irrigation canals. We also know that they were experienced in hunting and fishing. When you have many people that rely so heavily on the land and its ability to sustain life, a serious drought would most definitely have a profound effect on their livelihoods. A vast number of them succumbed to the lack of food. The rest fled their homes, being scattered across the rest of South America to be lost to time. Today, their descendants live among the various other peoples of the continent. We talk about Mother Nature all the time and the incredible power it has to mold landscapes, destroy structures, and take lives. But it is a completely new level of power when we discuss destroying, disrupting, or displacing entire civilizations. It is yet another example of the incredible power our world holds. To see more videos just like this, be sure to click the link on screen now. And with that, thank you all for watching, and be sure to tune in next time.